Welcome to the Penny for Your Thoughts podcast. This is your weekly insight into the small businesses of London. Today we're going to be chatting to Elliot Thornhill, who is the founder of Hike Agency. Hike is a marketing agency that specialises in paid advertising across all social channels. So today we are going to find out the best way to master marketing for your small business. So Elliot, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't we start by chatting a little bit about what you do for your clients, where it all started.
Okay. So it's been nearly 3 years now. It started as I run a marketing agency. We run paid ads, performance ads online for clients, ranging from sort of big conglomerate insurance companies to small startup e-com businesses and kind of anything in between. It started as like a freelance type job, just creating content, running people's social media channels, and then it kind of built itself into what it is now, which is we just do ads, we don't touch content. We found that a lot of the time when we're trying to sell to a client or bring them on board, that saying to them, yes, we can build out your social media following and we can we can build it up from 10,000 to 100,000. It's got fantastic, but there's no monetary difference between that and not having that. Wherein obviously running ads, you can kind of see, you're going to spend £2,000 on ads, you want to see a return, you'll get a return. So we found it a lot easier to sell and a lot easier to close clients. That's kind of the reason why it is where it is now. And obviously we work with, being a small agency, we work with different sized businesses. We like to kind of work and help with startups as well and build with them, because being one ourselves, we know what it's like, we know how difficult it is to get into that, especially when you've got no budget and especially if you've got no idea what you're doing. And then obviously we've got the bigger ones because they're quite fun to work with. It's a little bit different. Coming from like a more publishing background myself, it's quite nice to work in a different industry completely and learn about it at the same time, and obviously take those findings and use those in smaller businesses. So it's quite a niche way of doing it, because a lot of people kind of focus on one type of industry rather than just being anyone and everyone.
So you must see like all sorts of businesses.
Yes.
You must pay attention to, even like when you're not working for a client, you must just pay attention to everyone's marketing.
Yeah, I kind of get to the point where I'm on like Facebook ads and I'm looking at them all the time. I'm like, this is rubbish, I can do better.
What is like the biggest mistake that you see? What do you see everyone doing and you're just like screaming down the phone at them? Like,
stop. A lot of it is, there's kind of two. So the first one is overselling, especially within like e-com and stuff. People just think they need to get sales, so they need to basically just push ads out there that have the product on, say what it does, and that's it. Where actually you're trying to educate an audience, especially if it's an audience that you're kind of not targeted towards. You want to educate people and give people a reason why they need to shop your products or come through your website. So that's number one. And number two goes into like more of the detail about it. Like a lot of people, when they start running ads, don't really know what they're doing. So what they do is they kind of just go for a generic target group, which could be like 20 million strong, and they don't really look into who that core customer is. And so it's a lot of things we do is we come in and we help and we kind of build out what this profile this person would be, and then we then work our way back through testing and targeting. But yeah, and a lot of people think it's down to budget, and it's not. It's just down to content, copy, targeting.
And then speaking of budget, what advice would you give to someone who has no budget? They're just starting out, they can't afford an agency yet,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was about to say come to me.
They can't come to you yet. But what would you say to them to get them on their feet so that one day they could potentially start investing in marketing?
I think in the whole scheme of general marketing, keep it organic, and let's hypothetically say I'm starting a business out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a Facebook page and an Instagram page, and I need to have schedules. I need to be posting at certain times of day, every day, and I need to be varying that content. I think that's the biggest thing when people come to me and they go, what can I be doing right now? If you're starting a business or you have a business, it's all about structure. So as I said, if you're posting one time a day, that's great, but you need to vary that content type. So it needs to be video, it needs to be, I'm talking more about Instagram here than anything else, but video, stories, lives, and just varying that content. And that's kind of the easiest and quickest way to organically build your page. And then obviously once that gets going and obviously you build a following, then you can kind of utilize that to either get investment or however you're going to make your money. And then it's when I'd kind of start testing the waters maybe. A lot of the times businesses start testing themselves with ads, which can be good and cannot be good. Like coming from an agency, if I know someone's running ads and they've done it themselves, I know I'm going to be asked a load of questions about why are you doing it that way? Why are you doing it this way? Whereas if someone comes and they have no idea and they kind of just trust you from the get-go, they're kind of like the best client for someone because they just kind of sit back and go, okay, this works, so I don't really have any other option but to listen to. So yeah, there's kind of, I would start organic, push it yourself, and then if you need to, learn from YouTube, that's how I learned, and then just play around with ads but at small budgets, like £5.
And what would you say if someone was like, so say someone's doing all of that, someone's got their content plan going, they're posting every day, but they're just not seeing like an increase in following or engagement, and they're just like banging their head against the wall?
A lot of it is also down to like community management within social media. So yes, okay, you could be posting every day and putting up stories every day and doing the whole content side of things, but a lot of it is about interactions, talking to people. Like when we started out, we haven't got a big following ourselves because I can't ask her, but when I started out, I would always post up, put a story up, and then I'd start answering or asking questions on like sort of relative pages, whether it's brands, whether it's influencers, whether it's businesses, it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of getting out there so people are seeing you and seeing people answer you. And by then you can actually even get sort of viral for asking a question, and loads of people then start interacting with you. That's another way of doing it. Apart from that, it is kind of organic or paid. So you either pay behind what you're putting out there, or but that's why people hire either people to come and do it for them or agencies, because it's a lot of work. And if you're like a single person trying to start up a brand and start your social media, it's a lot.
Okay, and let's circle back to that paid versus organic. How do they work? Is there one that's more important than the other?
They kind of go hand in. Obviously, I would say paid's more because then I get more business. But no, I think starting out, especially, it's organic is going to be kind of the first thing you would do. And I remember when I started the business years ago, we did the same thing, and we just solely focused on organic stuff. And it's the easiest thing to do due to the fact like you can make the content yourself. You can either find it online for free, or you can either use friends and family to create the content. And then I think paid comes into it really at a stage of where you want to see proper growth, pure growth. So if you start off and you're creating a business, you're making sales, that's when I'd look to utilize paid, because that's where you can kind of elevate it to the next level. And then obviously thereon even more when you get bigger budgets.
What do you think makes a really good ad campaign on Facebook or Instagram? What are the main points that everyone should be doing?
Go to hike, and then there you go. No, I think the main thing, especially when starting out and having some knowledge about how to run ads, the first thing you want to do, and what I always say to any client, is within that first month of our retainer, we'll always do a testing period. That will be purely using as small a budget as possible and just testing target groups, different types of content, video, image-based, or like clear call to action stuff, things that say like 10% off or sale. And then looking into the copy as well. Those are kind of your three main aspects about with Facebook and Instagram ads. What are the kinds of way you need to start, and that month is purely testing. You need to basically find out who's the best person to go to target audience wise, what piece of copies work the best, what's got the highest click-through rates, and that's kind of your starting point for then moving on. Because as soon as you found, let's say you run 10, as soon as you found even 2 of those at work, you know that you can put more budget into there and keep an eye on them and see what changes. I think the thing that people don't really understand with ads is, and this is probably a completely different question, I'm going on a tangent, is that everything kind of works together in social media or even marketing. So when you're running ads but you're not doing anything post-wise on social media, they actually won't work as well as if you're constantly posting on Instagram and Facebook and you're engaging with your community, engaging with your audience and running ads. They work 10 times better. Because obviously Facebook keeping an eye on you all the time. So if your algorithm on those channels aren't working well, then your ads aren't going to get to many people. But the main thing is targeting and working out those target groups, and just trial and error basically. Trial and error basically. I messed up the last word. All marketing is trial and error, but mainly with ads it's if something doesn't work, bin it. If something's working, then you know to work with it. Actually, another thing about budget is, especially when it comes to the kinds of ads you can run on social media, if you're running, what we've found is if you're running lead generation ads, which is where you're basically gaining information on a potential customer, you actually don't need £500 a month budget. You can get even leads on £25. So we worked with the client recently and they got, I think it was like 200 and something leads. I think it's like 65% of them have converted into paying customers, and they spent £800 over 2 months, I think it was. And that is then converted into what I think revenue for them has been in the sort of tens of thousands, nearing up to the hundreds of thousands mark. So you're paying, including our fees, which is a bit different, but you're paying that initial £800 for nearly £100,000 worth of revenue. It kind of works. Whereas with some conversion campaigns, you can be paying a lot more. So it just depends on what kind of ads you're looking to run. And if you're looking to maybe even increase your newsletter as an e-com brand, then that's the kind of easy and cheap way to do that, rather than trying to get sales through the website. Because you build out your newsletter, it's kind of, especially within some e-com businesses, it's kind of bread and butter. So yeah, and it's kind of one thing I consult on, like with some e-commerce businesses, is how to start running their ads, and that's what I always say to them.
Because I think a lot of people think that you need to sort of have like thousands and thousands of pounds to chuck into ads, and especially after. Do you want to chat a little bit about the iOS 14? Because we have a lot of people wondering about that, and our last guest, Rory, they touched on it as investors and how it's affected their business. So I can imagine that you.
I think the thing is it happens now every year, and I think the biggest change was the whole privacy change. I think it was 2 years ago now, and my industry just blew up, and everyone basically losing their minds, going, we're going to lose clients, we're not going to make any money. But the thing is, there's always kind of ways you can work around that. And yes, okay, you get less targeting options, and yes, there's a potential of not getting into people's phones even. But it's just kind of working around that. And obviously, the main thing is just talking with the client. I mean, I've had to speak to all my clients saying, this update's obviously happening, this could potentially happen, this could potentially happen. I'm just kind of putting out fires that don't need to be started, basically.
So do you think that across different businesses, is there going to be like wildly different ways or different channels that different businesses should go down depending on what it is they're selling or how they're selling it, like direct to consumer versus, service based?
Yeah, I think different channels obviously lend a hand to different kind of businesses. So like Pinterest ads, Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram, Facebook, they all work really well for obviously B2C. But a lot of the time, a lot of B2B businesses obviously look at them and go, we would have no way of advertising on this, which in some cases is true, but most of the cases it's not. Like, again, going back to the lead generation things, you can pick up leads for like a tech insurance company, like a startup, through Facebook and Instagram. And more businesses now looking to other ways, obviously marketing. So you're seeing lots more businesses going to TikTok, obviously with video basically being the best form. That's what I'm trying to say. It's the best form of content right now, video. So a lot of like these big corporate businesses are looking to TikTok and Snapchat to actually market through. So leading around back to your question, because I'm tangenting again, yes. So mainly for like Pinterest, you want to look at e-com businesses. Most corporate businesses can advertise and should advertise through Facebook, especially if you're looking to gain leads, or even like general brand awareness campaigns. It's like the easiest route. And I think by diversifying that even more and looking into TikTok and Snapchat, it kind of creates another stream of potential customers or potential followers or sort of brand engagement, I suppose.
Let's round it off a little bit now.
Okay.
So, as always on the podcast, the previous guest has left a question for you. The question left is, what company do you most look up to and why?
Do I look up to, is there a company I look up to? I mean, kind of, no, especially within my sector, there's a lot of, and this is how I've actually kind of learned really how to run a business. There's a lot of these online groups and forums for us, like all these people that run ads around the world. And I suppose like within there you have different companies doing different things, and they run their business differently, and it kind of lends a hand into how maybe I look at running this one. So I suppose it's not really going around the question, but it's more of like these online groups where, weirdly enough, I've made friends like in random companies, random like countries through it. But because we all like, it's a very big sector, and within that, the group of people, like we all know each other. So you kind of weirdly help each other out. So even though your competition, I've gained clients through some of these guys, because obviously we're industry agnostic, and they will only focus on one industry. And then like I've helped guys out with different kinds of marketing ideas, if they're not an advertising agency, if they're more of a social media marketing one that do like content or whatever. So it's less of looking up to, but it's more about like the actual community that I'm in. It's quite cool because we all kind of help each other out. I suppose there's a nice answer to that question.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, I think that rounds it off nicely. Thanks for coming in today.